It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show. Today's date is February 4th. It happens to be a Wednesday, and this is the C Block to Charlie Block. And John, you know, I don't know if I told you this or not. We got this new major sponsor. Can I? They asked me if I can play it one more time. Can I do it one more time?
Yeah, I want some inspiration. Give it to us.
Here we go.
Positivity, productivity, and prosperity. God Squad. Positivity, productivity, and prosperity. God Squad.
The 3 Ps. Positivity, productivity, and prosperity. God Squad. GodSquad.cloud.
John, isn't that good?
I love the fact that you imported that gentleman from some European country. And we know he's smart and sophisticated because he has an accent.
That's right. That's right. When you have that kind of an accent, you have an IQ of at least 150. So
yeah, you could tell that he went to a great British school. It's kind of like the fact that when you sent me a TikTok video the other day, and I made it through about between 3 and 4 seconds of it before I X'd out of it. And one of the reasons why I X'd out of it, other than the fact that it was a video from you, so it would be low information content, the reason why I X'd out of it was I got scared because I recognized that man's voice. Do you know where I recognized it from?
I know.
He's a police officer. And when I'm driving through town and I listen to Westplex 107.1, or I'm listening to Westplex Talk, and I hear a commercial for the perfecttrafficstop.com, I hear an authoritarian police officer. And yes, I'm aware that might be redundant. And an authoritarian man comes in and says, "Excuse me, sir, I'm pulling you over." And I had such a strong flashback to that voice that I had to X out of your TikTok video.
Well, not only that, the reason he pulled over that car was because of the fact their license plate came up on the ALPR system, the flock system, and they were suspicious. I mean, John, seriously, we talked about this in the B block, the flock safety cameras, or what do they call them? What is it called? Flock safety? Isn't that what the company's called?
Yeah, I think they're just called Flock, but it's the Flock Safety Group. They have some kind, flowery name corporate-wise.
Right. Okay. How do you feel about this?
Oh, I think it's definitely intrusive, for sure. And I think that, it reminds me of the story around 2005, 2006, American Traffic Solutions, which, by the way, I just looked up this year in Jeff City. American Traffic Solutions, the other big traffic, what's the acronym for that, Brad? ARPL?
It's the red light cameras. I think most people call it just the red light cameras.
Okay. So American Traffic Solutions doesn't have any lobbyists registered in Missouri as of now. All those folks terminated their registration in November, uniquely. But ATS, American Traffic Solutions, came to St. Louis city government, and they got a lot of attention via the Riverfront Times because ATS was trying to get red light cameras, trying to keep other companies out, as I understand it. And they hired a woman. Well, they hired a lot of lobbyists, but they especially hired a woman named Joyce Abusi, who is a Democratic powerhouse. Chad Garrison of the Riverfront Times highlighted this, and it became a big hubbub because essentially American Traffic Solutions took their turnkey legislation, which they had used in other cities, wrote the legislation, went to all, if you're a cynic, you say they went to aldermen and said, "Here's the bill that you will present. Here's the bill that you will pass. You will not make changes to this. You will not negotiate this. This is the bill that we want." And it essentially said, in order to have red light cameras, they must meet these exact specifications. And surprise, surprise, American Traffic Solution were the only company at the time that could meet those specifications. So that story happened 20 years ago. And now you have Flock attempting to, well, I don't know what they're trying to do in the Missouri legislature. So I won't speculate on it because that would be unfair.
Do you know why the red light cameras were pulled out of St. Charles County? Do you know this story? It's actually sort of interesting.
I don't know this story. No, Brad.
There was a guy. He still a St. Charles County council person by the name of Joe Brazel. Joe Brazel's been in the news a lot when the Hoffmans were having. Matter of fact, he was on Channel 4 when he was one of the people they interviewed about. There were people in St. Charles County who'd done business with the Hoffmans, hadn't get paid. Remember that whole they did a 2-part series on the Hoffmans.
I do remember that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joe Brazel had gotten a red light camera in St. Peter's, I believe right there on Mid-Rivers Mall Drive at Mexico, if I'm not mistaken. And he'd gotten the ticket in the mail, and he had mailed in the payment. But the problem was the payment had not cleared yet. So Joe got pulled over by a St. Peter's police officer and he had a warrant for his arrest for not paying a red light traffic ticket. And literally, Joe was put into handcuffs, taken to the St. Peter's City Jail, and processed. And Joe said, enough is enough. So he went on a warpath, on a rampage to get rid of red light cameras in St. Charles County, and he was successful, where they put in a county ordinance that essentially superseded all the municipal ordinances, essentially saying, hey, guess what? You can't do that in St. Charles County. So there are now no St. Charles County red light cameras due to Joe Brazel. So, Joe, salute, dude. I appreciate the fact you did that.
That's pretty amazing, isn't it? Now, remind me, did you say, was he already on the county council at that point?
Oh, yeah. He was a county council person. He got thrown in jail. I mean, and once again, I get it, and the interesting part of this is a discretionary thing. I may be wrong in this, but at least for the police department I worked for, this was discretionary. If you pulled over somebody, and there were a couple different levels of this, if you pulled over somebody on a traffic stop and you ran their driver's license, we called it a 1027 back in the day, you ran their driver's license and it came back that they had a warrant for their arrest, it depended upon what it was for. And probably the biggest aspect of was, if it was from like another state, we would literally, that was the dispatcher's job, we would get on the phone with the agency that it was issued from and say, maybe they do it differently now, but back in the day we used to call, we find out who the department was. We'd call them and we'd say, hey, we have Joe Smith pulled over on a traffic stop. You have an active warrant for them on blah, 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 blah. It could have been something like minor, a municipal violation or something like that. And the question was, do you want to extradite? Which means, let's say this department, for example, we talked about Verona, Wisconsin. Let's say this was an active warrant for a municipal violation in Verona, Wisconsin. The Verona, Wisconsin people would have to come to our department in Illinois, pick them up, and drive them back to Wisconsin. So obviously, if there's something like municipal violation or a 10-mile and over speed limit, they'd say, nah, we're not going to extradite. And essentially, the officer would say, okay, you're lucky, SOB, get on your way and stop driving fast. Maybe they'd give him a ticket or whatever. Okay, that's the situation. I think Joe was PO'd about, and I don't blame him. He got arrested for a stupid red light camera violation. You know what I mean? And the interesting...
Yeah, and sorry to interrupt, but isn't this a case, don't you think, and I could be stereotyping here, but wouldn't this be a case of a jerk cop that says, oh, I bet this guy thinks he's special. Well, we're going to put him in cuffs.
But see, that's where the officer's discretion comes in. And John, you know who's got something that refers to the officer's discretion? You know who is trying to help people out to not get traffic tickets? John, do you know?
I don't know, Brad. Is there a catchy domain you could share with us?
It's called The Perfect Traffic Stop. And
what will you find there?
If you've heard that 60-second vignette of a police officer, the guy driving along, and his wife saying, honey, you're driving a little bit too fast. And then the police officer comes to the window and says, sir, your license and registration. And then the announcer comes in and says, this could be good or it could be bad. And it all depends on how you treat that police officer. And then at the end of that vignette, the police officer comes back up to the window and he says, you did everything right, so I'm just giving you a warning. And then the husband says, honey, aren't you glad I took that perfect traffic stop course? And the woman says, oh, honey, you're so wonderful. I can't believe I married such a wonderful woman. Wonderful guy. You're so wonderful. I just love you so much. Oh, let me give you a kiss.
Oh, wow. And Brad, and that's where I think you usually incorporate AI to play out the rest of that scene, right? Where does she kiss him, Brad?
On his ear. That's where.
On his ear. That's what we're calling it these days. I guess there was an AI glitch and you tried to make it look like the real thing and it ended up looking like an ear. Okay.
See, it's human nature. It's just like Jack Armstrong on this station said about 2 or 3 months ago. He said, I've done something recently which has gotten a lot of attention. He says, I find it interesting. He says, everybody I come across on a daily basis, if I'm at, the market, the supermarket, shopping or something like that, anytime I make eye contact with anybody, I smile at them. And he says, it's really sort of weird. Some people smile back. Some people look at like, What does he want? He's smiling at me. Why would he smile at me? Nobody smiles at me. It's human nature. If you get pulled over by a police officer and you're a jerk, guess what? If you may be going 8 miles over the limit, he's just going to go, I'm not going to write a ticket for 8 miles over the limit, blah, 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 blah. But if you're a jerk to him, he's going to write the fact that you're 8 miles over the limit and that also your car has a tail light out. You get a ticket for that. And your license plate only has 1 bolt on instead of 2. You're going to get a ticket for that. He's going to just have fun with you. So don't be a jerk.
Brad, I'm just disappointed that you're giving away all this valuable content for free.
It's like,
I mean, you should force people to go to theperfecttrafficstop.com, but instead you're just giving it away. How magnanimous of you.
it's only $7. But see, the interesting part of this was back in the day when we had Brian Nieves on the old we called it the Mouth, 1350, the talk station. We had Brian Nieves. We had another guy who I miss. He's not in the St. Louis area anymore, and he was a pilot for American Airlines. And I'm trying to remember his name. Anyway,
Jack Jackson.
No, it wasn't Jack Jackson. He was on the station as well too. He was
I know.
He was a test pilot for Boeing and a decorated a Marine aviator.
Where was he on the P-51 Mustang?
He loved the P-51s. I think he flew them a couple times.
I bet he did, Brad. I
Yeah.
bet you guys could bore the entire
Yeah.
studio to tears talking about it.
Anyway, this particular, I can't remember his name. God, it's terrible. I'm getting old. He brought up the fact that he was fighting the red light cameras. And the amazing thing was the city of Washington had the red light cameras. And the amazing thing was that they kept saying, oh, this is not about the money. We're trying to slow down people. And yet the mayor at the time, Mayor Stratman, I had him on the show one day, and he made the unbelievable statement. Our studio was at the corner of Stafford and West 5th Street, and there was a stop sign there.
Did he ever run that stop sign,
He
Brad?
talked about the fact all the time that, well, when I'm driving down the street and I see that stop sign, I look to see on the cross section of the cross traffic, if there's any cross traffic, I just go right through the stop sign. I don't stop. And I'm going like, okay, hold on a minute. Here's the guy who's behind the red light cameras, but yet he's saying he doesn't obey stop signs. So I pissed him off, and I did. I said to him, Dick, can I make you a deal? I'm going to sit on my front porch of the radio station, which I did, and I'm going to get my video camera, and I'm going to video camera all the people running the stop sign right there at West 5th and Stafford. And what I want to do is I'm going to come to the police department, and we're going to, let's say I give you 20 videos, and I want you to watch the police officers, the chief or whatever, I want you to watch those videos with me, and then I want you to grab your computer and pull up who those people are and send them a ticket in the mail. And if it's a $50 ticket, give me $10. And he says, well, we wouldn't do that. Why would we pay you? I'm thinking to myself, he's paying the stupid ATS people, right?
Yeah, and is the guy's name Guy Midkiff?
Guy Midkiff, yeah. How did you remember that?
Yeah, it took me 5 seconds of Googling to get that. Thank you.
Guy Midkiff. Guy was a great guy. And matter of fact, I can say this now, because I couldn't at the time because he's retired. He doesn't fly anymore. He was an FFDO. You know what that was?
No, what's that?
He's a federal firearms, or I think it's FFDO. He was a pilot for American Airlines, and he was one of the guys, I think they had to actually go through like the FBI Academy or something like that. He was essentially certified to carry a concealed weapon as a pilot. And
very nice.
Federal Flight Deck Officer, FFDO, and they still have that program. So sometimes when you're on a flight, and especially if you see the pilot get onto the plane and he's got his suit coat on, and he doesn't take the suit coat off. Most guys in the summer you'll see them all the time, like in their short sleeve flight shirt, stuff like that. But if he gets on the plane and he keeps his suit coat on, chances are he's an FFDO and he's strapped. He's got a rod. He's got a piece, whatever you want to call it. He's got a
Brad,
heater.
let's not say he's got a rod.
He's got a heater strapped to his belt. And if stuff goes down in the plane, he opens up that door and he goes Rambo. He goes Rambo. Boom, 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 boom.
Well, I got to go hang out with Guy Phillips and Guy Smiley so we can talk about Guy Midkiff.
John, on the banger scale of 1 to 10, what was this show today, John?
11.1.
11.1.
Yesterday, I had to give it, to use the Gen Alpha term, I had to give it a 6.7.
Oh, 6.
It was a 6.7 yesterday.
Okay.
Because we misidentified people, and to use a certain word that I know one of our listeners likes, I was being obstreperous with you yesterday. And but today was an 11.1, Brad. Great job.
But John, once again, Ben Brown and Ben Baker. One guy is Asian, one guy is Pacific Islander. I can't tell them apart. I'm sorry. That sounds racial, but I can't.
Everybody from Guam who listens to our show, just turn off the dial.